start in the SQ1 Championships League is still sitting at 0-2 because their victory against Team Twice has been voided as the team was kind of kicked off the tournament. I think they got disbanded, a bit unsure on my part there. And Glorious Gaming, on the other hand, runner-ups from last split, from the spring split. Second place, of course, wonderful team. Still 1-1, so they're looking to cement themselves at the top of the table.
And they definitely are. And last week they played against CBA. They did lose that game. However, they had some pretty solid performances, and especially looking at the man in the mid lane, Hank Hankerson, he was very solid.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's a wonderful name and even a bigger and better wonderful performance. The problem with Glorious Gaming wasn't precisely in the players. They played well. They got early game leads. However, in the end, they weren't able to really process those leads into anything bigger than just a couple of kills. They weren't able to convert it into objectives, and as a result, they just got outscaled and outfought in the later stages of the game. Now, if that is going to be the case for today, I cannot say just yet. However, what we do know is that Glorious Gaming like to play very aggressively in the first couple of minutes, and on the other hand, Stopwatch is a much more calmed down team. They just like to scale. You have the AD carry Bomberhund, who had an amazing performance against Team Twice together with his support of Jappy, and if it's going to be coming to a clash of styles, it's going to be very interesting to see who comes out on top.
Yeah, very much so, and it is kind of unlucky for Stopwatch that the games they actually won happen to be against the teams that have dropped out. So, you know, technically back to the drawing board. But what you said, we are looking at that bot lane for Stopwatch. However, another place where I'm looking at is jungle, Leave in Limbo. His profile suggests that he loves to play those ganking junglers like, you know, Jarvan, Vi, Sejuani, and I don't doubt his abilities. He's really good at them. But let me tell you about the better pick. Nautilus in the jungle. That guy actually makes it work.
Yeah, he actually made it work. He had an amazing performance. He out-jungled Vi. Wasn't really able to 1v1 her, but just because he was able to run around the jungle so efficiently, he was able to pressure the mid lane and bot lane so much that Stopwatch actually found leads despite their inabilities to find them through hard engage on bot lane because he didn't have anything prepared there. This man is an absolute monster in that jungle, and if he is going to be playing into Samus, someone whom we know also for getting his lanes ahead in the early stages of the game, it's going to be really paramount for both these junglers to try and kind of track each other. If they know where the other person is, it's going to come down to these solo laners where some of the aggressiveness can shine a bit better for Glorious Gaming.
And this is where the kind of styles of the champions that lanes are playing comes to be pretty important, since if you look at the top lanes, I feel like both top laners have similar styles of champions, whereas they are focused on the lane and maybe transitioning into split push. But they are pretty different champions, with Darkblood shifting more towards Aatrox, Shen, Renekton and stuff like that, whereas Perun, he can pull out the Camille or Karma even. So this is also going to be something interesting to follow.
And the big question mark that I have over Stopwatch looming right now is that Darkblood that you mentioned, because when we saw Stopwatch playing against Team Twice, their entire roster looked solid. They were finding leads thanks to Leave in Limbo as well as their bot lane. However, I had question marks around Darkblood. He was pretty much falling behind into GPS Shen, which isn't really a matchup that is Shen favorite, but you can come out on top of it. There was a 4k gold lead for Gangplank at 20 minutes. That isn't something that you can tolerate when you play against teams and when you try to just, you know, not fall behind. So if Perun, which is a player that we know that can find those early game leads, can abuse this weaker opponent, it can be the route that Glorious Gaming can take to just quickly close the game out.
Alright, well, there it is. You have said it. One last lane that I want to just give a broader look, because we should be getting in the Champions Select very soon, is that bot lane. You mentioned Bomberhorn. He likes to, you know, play maybe more of those wait for the team fight picks, whereas I am pretty sure I saw Whisper play stuff like Draven.
Yeah, we have seen it actually be pulled out against actually CBA last week, I believe it was, or no, that was first week. So he did pull it out to limited effectiveness, I think we can say, but that's again because actually CBA simply outscaled them, and we have seen that Whisper and Rokusho can find those leads in their lane. However, we have also seen that Stopwatch can pull all of those plays themselves. So this draft pick is going to, this draft phase is going to be very, very important to who is going to be getting the priority in the first couple of levels, because it not only manages to kind of determine the lane, but also the game, because both of these teams love to play through their bot lane.
And we are going to be jumping into those picks, and bans Stopwatch are going to be on the blue side, whereas Glorious Gaming are sitting on the red side. Hecarim is already the first ban.
That's interesting, because it isn't going to be it is going to be Samus playing in that jungle spot instead of Musia, who did play against actually CBA and pulled out that Hecarim, so it is still a respect pick. Can possibly be taking it away from Perun as well. Perhaps because Darkblood can play something like that Aatrox, so a pure counter pick. Maybe they are just trying to secure themselves some favorable matchups in that top lane to at least allow Darkblood some breathing space.
Yeah, and also Hecarim, I think it is Samus' most played, at least in solo queue, so that makes a bit of sense. Skarner now being banned away, Aatrox, Mordekaiser. So a lot of target focus towards the top side of the map, the jungle, the top laners being the targets of the bans.
I'm a bit upset that I'm not going to be getting to see the brand new Mordekaiser, but
you
regardless,
don't want to, trust me. It's the most confusing thing with the ultimate.
I have seen a Twitter thread about all the broken interactions that Mordekaiser right now has with like Shen Ultimate and stuff like that. It's wonderful, it's wonderful. But to return to the rest of the bans that have gone through, you mentioned top lane focus, and that is going to be that Aatrox taken away from Darkblood. Given that Stopwatch do have the red side presence in this draft phase, it of course means that, you know, Glorious Gaming kind of are forced to take away some of the power picks. Karma, of course, being one of the strongest meta picks right now in the current meta. That's a lot of metas, but regardless, it's still taken away, powerful flex pick, and now we're just waiting for Stopwatch to pick their first lovely pick.
Yeah. Karma being the ban, of course, it can be played absolutely everywhere, and is absolutely broken pretty much anywhere it is being played. And Sejuani for Stopwatch, so no Nautilus for even Limbo. Unless that's a Sejuani top lane, but I'm just gonna assume it's jungle.
Yeah, likely. I mean, we have seen Sejuani be played also on support roles. Remember that one time when she got buffed or changed, and then everyone was playing her everywhere. But likely going to be going into the jungle, and it's pretty interesting because we haven't really seen Sejuani pop up in priority too much. Instead, she has been giving space to something like a Rek'Sai, to something even like a Nautilus. Skarner has also been popping up in priority a lot more than her, so I'm excited to see what impact Leave in Limbo is going to be having on this champion, because it is right up his alley.
Well, now you've got Lux and Zoe. Two, I'm gonna call them power picks. They're not like the most important
picks.
Yeah, they are annoying because of the range, but Lux support is one of the most broken things that exist right now. And also Hank Hankerson, he's a pretty big Zoe player. So I'm looking forward to what is going to come up.
And technically, Perun can also play Zoe, so, you know, I'm not suggesting anything, but it can happen. Likely won't, of course, Lux, as you rightfully said, one of the most broken picks. Sivir, one of the, 4 or 5 AD carries that are really good right now. It's a very safe pick, and we have seen Bomberhunt that he can pop off on it if he is given enough resources. So let's see if Stopwatch are going to be able to replicate it, as they are just going for pure teamfight composition once again.
And Nico also provides a bit of a flex where you can put it both in top lane and in the middle lane, and it can also act as a split pusher. So I do like the first 3 picks that Stopwatch went for. You called it, they are going for the team fights, whereas Glorious Gaming, I mean, you can build a very effective pick composition. It just depends on what they are going for right now, and they just want to pick individual targets and run them down.
Yeah, and exactly that's what I talked about with the difference of styles between these teams. Glorious Gaming, they're just going for pure aggression. They're going to be wanting to be finding those picks, as you said, with the Sleepy Trouble Bubble, with the Light Binding from Lux. Every single time any member on Stopwatch gets caught out by that single crowd control ability, they're likely going to die just because there is so much long-range damage. And if you get this Aurelia fed very early on in the hands of Perun, it is a terrifying prospect to be facing. So Glorious Gaming already set for kind of success. Not victory yet, but success.
And they are banning away the champions that would make their life harder. Shen with that Stand United, the champion that Darkblood has played, would mitigate all of their potential, and Yuumi, just being Yuumi, you don't want to even play against it when you are considering blowing up the enemy champion, so you can't even see further what Glorious Gaming are going for. But similar story actually there for Stopwatch. They ban away the Jarvan, they want to limit the team fighting impact of Glorious Gaming so that they can come out on top in those 5v5s.
And right now I'm curious as to what the Glorious Gaming are going to prioritize, if it's going to be the jungler or the kind of top lane or mid lane, the The AD carry pick. Why did that role kind of just completely slip my mind? Regardless, looks like they are going to be leaving the jungle for the counter pick for Samus. Or not. Alright. I shut my
Yeah.
mouth.
They do go for the Trundle.
Yeah, to be fair, they didn't really have to leave it up for the last pick because they already knew that SQ1 was locked in. My bad, everyone. I'm an idiot. You heard it here, folks.
I mean, Trundle makes a lot of sense as well, since
Yes.
you can steal away those tanky stats, and if there will be more tanks, as now Ardent champions being hovered, Sona, Soraka, Janna, Morgana, I think makes a lot of sense against all the CC, and I was actually expecting it to be the third pick for Stopwatch. But now, alright, and Akali being the hover.
So now the question is, because in the second ban phase, Glorious Gaming considered that it was going to likely be Nico going mid. Now, if that Akali was locked in, you wouldn't really know who you were going to be facing because you can swap those two champions around. If it's going to be Camille, that Malak Bell right now is hovering. Alright, yeah, they're not leaving any flex potential at all. They're subbing in the Renekton. He's gonna be playing into an Aurelia, which is, I think we can fairly say an acceptable laning phase for this Crocodile. He could definitely just eat away on this Aurelia. So already, it seems that Stopwatch, they're saying, alright, we're going to be having some late game firepower, but we don't need just that. We want to have at least a couple of winning lanes. We're gonna be putting that Renekton in, and we're going to be at least having some success in the early couple of minutes.
And what we talked about before the game is that Darkblack for Stopwatch, he wasn't really the person that had a lot of focus. Well, now he's playing Renekton. You've got a Sejuani. The combined damage of the two is insane, especially if you do manage to lock down Perun. So I actually am now expecting Stopwatch to be getting Darkblack ahead, or at least try and create pressure so that Perun doesn't.
And the thing is, right, if you get either of your top laners ahead, you're going to be having a much easier time. But as you rightfully said, the jungle top lane duo is on the side of Stopwatch is always going to be having a better impact, not only because they have more damage, but also because they have more ways to lock this Aurelia down. The thing with Aurelia is she can only dash on enemy minions and on enemies. So if she's ever caught out in the middle of an enemy wave, she's never going to be able to run away. And if you have this Sejuani dashing in, even before level 6, she doesn't need the Bola to try and lock this Aurelia down because she's a fairly, squishy target, yes. Jesus Christ, I cannot speak apparently. But if you just try and lock this Perun down, it's going to be very beneficial for you. Now, I'm a bit interested in how it's going to be leaving Limbo trying to spread apart the pressure on the other sides of the map, however, because you are going to be facing Lux and Xayah in that bot lane, and while you do have the Black Shield as well as the Spell Shield on Sivir, she can still get mowed down very quickly with the combined damage of the two.
Yeah, I feel like this is where the execution will come into play more than just the picks themselves, since Sivir Morgana, it has arguably the most protection in the game out of any bot lane duo when it comes to denying the crowd control. However, Glorious Gaming, they've got more than enough. Every single member, well, the Blade Core from Whisper is still there. It is definitely not the initiating CC. It can come through later on. But every other member has got some form of CC that can catch you out. And even in this 2v2, if Rokusho manages to sneak in a binding when Bomberhound and Malak Bell are not paying attention, which is unlikely to happen, though still possible, you can see Whisper potentially take over the game as Xayah, and this is what Xayah really excels at. If you get ahead, she will shred the entire team in the mid game.
Oh yeah, and I know that it is way too early to be talking about late game team fights, but I'm actually very excited for mid game because both teams are going to be having a lot of firepower in those team fights. You're going to be having Xayah on the side of Glorious Gaming as well as Aurelia and Lux, who deal quite a formidable amount of damage. And on the other side, you have Nico, who, if she decides to build full AP, is also going to be a pretty big menace. Not even talking about Sivir, who pops off like hell in the late game. But as you rightfully said, it's going to come down to the execution, and it's not going to be the bot lane making those big plays. Instead, it's going to be all about that top lane, and it is kind of a skill matchup. And if Darkblood doesn't manage to win it out in this very matchup, I am going to be having quite some worries for the top laner of Stopwatch.
And especially that, well, it was at first the rocky start, then of course the turbulences within the league means that Stopwatch are currently sitting without the wins, which means that you really want to be picking them up, especially against Glorious Gaming, which are Well, we make a big thing about this split being much closer than the last one because it is, but there will still be top and the bottom teams inevitably, and you do want to put yourself in that upper half of the standings as early as possible so you can, look for the playoffs when the time eventually comes. Though, no, you never say the P word third weekend. What's wrong with you, Catherine? God damn it.
No, it's way too early to be talking
Yeah.
about firstly the late game and second the playoffs because we haven't even managed to get through the spectator delay. All right, so if you guys haven't noticed, by the way, please do type in chat who you think is going to be winning this very game, just based on the draft alone. Of course, we're no prophets here, but we can make kind of balanced assumptions, I think. And I'm going to make my own balanced assumption, and that is going to be that Stopwatch should actually have the first couple of minutes in the bag. We should be seeing them try and put a lot of pressure on the map, simply because Nico should be able to outpush Zoe because her wave clear is a lot less mana dependent than Zoe, or rather it's a lot more mana efficient than that of a Zoe. And something that I noticed when we were watching Stopwatch play against Team Twice was that they didn't precisely control the vision properly. We saw the bot lane overextend without having a sufficient amount of wards in the river, and even when it rolled around 20 minutes when they had priority, their vision was non-existent. It was completely dark for them on the map, and that is going to have to change if they're going to be playing especially into this composition, because as we pointed out, you have Zoe who revels really in just playing from beyond Fog of War. Lux can do the same, and if you're facing this pick composition, a lack of vision can really bite you in the rear very, very quickly.
And on top of that, you'll have Samus running at you, throwing down the pillar, and let me tell you, Black Shield will save one person. It will not save the entire team if you manage to walk into a trap, as we are loading into this first game of the day, hopefully very, very soon. Do you think we're gonna see any invades? I think it's likely, but, depends on the teams.
Yeah, it really can happen. If you see, however, Morgana going for a Black Shield, for a Binding level 1, it can mean that Glorious Gaming tries to utilize that level 1 advantage in that bot lane just by Lux going for Light Binding and trying to deal a lot of damage to the bot lane of Stopwatch, so that can be an interesting interaction. However, we still have to wait for these teams to do their thing, and it looks like, well, nothing is going to happen. Nothing interesting is, well, look at them.
Yeah, look at them go. Yeah, they're just going for the standard cover, Kerem. It's the pinnacle of first minute macro play.
Yeah, fun fact, I actually never know how to where to put myself in the beginning of the game whenever I play my solo queue games, but maybe that's why I don't play, but cast instead.
Yeah, that's why you can watch the players and see where they position.
It's wonderful. It's really wonderful to be learning from all of these teams, and it's also interesting because then you see those mistakes, and you'll be always doing them yourself, but hey, you can point them out at least. Now, one vision ward has gone down from the side of Stopwatch in the top set quadrant of the jungle against Glorious Gaming, and it looks like Samus is going to actually reply to that, and is just going to fake going to the bot side. However, instead, he's still going to be starting on this red buff, so nothing changes, at least right now.
Yeah, whereas leaving Limbo, he's making his way towards the red buff as well, so the jungler's starting on opposite sides of the map, which would suggest if they path towards the other sides than where they started, that leaving Limbo will be trying, at the very least, to do something around that level 3 towards the Dark Blast matchup.
And the thing is, I am not expecting this SQ1 to be going for full bot side clear, just because you don't... Okay, so pause. Okay. I think it was Malik Bell, just disconnecting real quickly. But regardless, to return to my point, I don't think that SQ1 is going to be going to bot side immediately, simply because you do not have enough setup there. You have just a binding from Morgana, and I do not think that that is enough on its own to try and secure yourself a kill. So leaving Limbo, he's still going to be playing around this top side of the map more often than not before that level 6, and after he hits that Glacial Prison, he can try and affect bot lane as well. And so right now, Glorious Gaming, they kind of have a window of opportunity. If Samus decides to rear his head over there, they can also try and make some things happen, but once again, bot lane likely not going to be the main focus of this game.
And I feel like it is also nice just to repeat it. It's a fun fact that everyone knows, but still, I'm just gonna say it. The Sejuani passive stacks with every single melee champion auto-attacking. Renekton has an auto-attack reset. That means if you go into the top lane, you get that passive, you get the stun, you get the burst so fast that Perun might not even get to use his flash in time.
Yeah, that's an interesting interaction to really point out. Now, I want to inform everyone in the chat right now sitting that it was Malik Bell going... Oh, sorry, it's it's apparently also Whisper going for a fan, because there is apparently a heat wave through the entirety of Europe right now.
Apart from UK, let's go.
Yeah, no, summer is a wonderful time, and I'm just waiting for your Brits to also be getting it, but hopefully not. I mean, France is supposed to have around 45 degrees Celsius, so...
It's currently 25 where I am.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah, I mean...
You cannot...
cold weather, right?
Yeah, I mean, you lot can be now jealous, unless you're also in UK, in which case you probably don't care about that. Alright, yeah. Players are just making sure, because, yeah, heat is not a fun thing, especially if your room gets super hot like mine does, then...
Yeah, I mean, I can't really have my door open, so it's essentially turning into a little bit of a heat chamber, you could say. But regardless, we're back into the game finally, and the teams are starting to just farm up. Given that it's level 1, no big surprises. The bot lane spells that were picked up was the, what's it called, Spellflux? Or no, that's Rise. That's Lucent Singularity.
Yes.
That's such a dumb name. So, no big shenanigans going to be happening, at least just yet, on the bot lane. Looking just to get some poke down, get some chip damage, and just farm up.
And definitely the case as Perun goes in for the stun. Actually, Dark Black, he gets so much damage with the press attack. Perun, he's already 100 HP, and Dark Black just gets the first blood in the top lane.
That was just... It was like feeding candy to someone. Dark Black was just sitting there, Perun dashes in, but he kind of forgets that he's playing into a Renekton who spikes heavily around level 2 where he gets that auto attack reset. Okay, now bot lane.
Good binding onto Whisper. Ignite is going to be thrown as well. Here's the Blade Collar. The Spell Shield is going to interrupt it. Heal from Rokusha also thrown down, and that's a nice trade for Stopwatch. Just a gank in the mid lane, flash away from Henkerson, and he should be fine.
And this is an entirely different Stopwatch than we are used to seeing. I said that they are a very calm team, that they don't really go for too many early game plays, but so far, they're trying to get themselves ahead, even though they do have the superior late game team fighting composition. Really good to see that growth coming through from them.
And my eyes are now on top lane, on Dark Black. Can he make it more? I doubt Perun will go for opportunistic 1v1 attempts. This game. However, leave in limbo. He now has a lane that is ahead that he can go to. So the point that we try to drive during the Champions Select, it just becomes much more realistic.
And the problem right now for Perun is that Darkblood did start with the Doran's Blade, so he had initially a lot more AD. As look at that.
That was through the Defiant Dance.
I mean, yeah, but still, Perun manages to dodge at least some of the damage, so that's wonderful. If you look at the positioning of the junglers, Living Limbo is, as we said, positioned around the top side of the map, just in that river, and Samus is copying him and is in the bot side, so no junglers invading, at least just yet. I am expecting Samus to try and do something about that. However, for that, he needs to get priority in the lanes, which he hasn't really been able to get just in that bot lane with Whisper and Rokusho pushing the enemy bot lane down.
Yeah, we are going to another pause as some minor internet issues lags being investigated by the players, and I really make it sound specific, but it's probably someone just restarting their router at most.
Or it's the heat. Isn't it like...
Is it the... It can cause it, but I don't think it's the...
Hey, okay. We have to find as many excuses as we can, just so that we don't look like idiots, right? But
I mean, you're not wrong.
Right? Okay, another thing. Another thing to focus on is, I'm unsure if you... Okay, yeah, you guys can see the items on the stream right now. So, if you look at the bot lane itemization, Whisper has decided to pick up the call from his very first back, meaning that they're not really looking for too many big fights, they're looking just to farm up a tiny bit. On the other hand, Bomber Hunt, he's still sitting in that lane, just with a Doran's Blade, so both pretty happy. And it does mean that we are going to be seeing the narrative that we have kind of tried to build up, which that the bot lane doesn't really matter. Bot lane is just trying to scale. However, now I'm going to be excited to see what Glorious Gaming are actually going to be doing about that top lane situation. Are they going to put Samus there to try and relieve some of the pressure off of Perun, or is he going to be going to mid lane to try and catch this relatively slippery chameleon off guard?
That's something to see. Also, what you can see on the scoreboard is that Hank has managed to secure a minor CS advantage, currently sitting on 7, when the waves, I think they are even in the mid as we speak. So,
well, he has managed to go into the top side jungle and clear out all of it, as well as bot side, I believe. So that's probably where that deficit lies.
Yeah, it most likely is. But basically, the next few minutes after we come out of the pause, it will be just both teams looking to get this noble stopwatch. I would love to see them try and play around that top lane, get Darkblood even more ahead, whereas, yeah, Glorious Gaming, why not play around the mid lane? I think if you get your Zoe ahead, especially that Hank Hankerson, I judging from his profile, I think he's a really good Zoe player. Of course, it's hard to judge from 4 minutes of gameplay, that's why I'm saying it, but there is something to look forward to.
And the interesting thing is that he did decide to pick up Electrocute as well, instead of something like an Airy or Dark Harvest. You don't generally tend to pick Dark Harvest anymore on Zoe, but you can still pick it for late game scaling. So they just want to put Zoe in this mid game position where she can carry. And if you put a lot of attention onto her with that Trundle, you can achieve some great things, especially since Credible does not have Cleanse. He did decide to go for that Ignite instead, and so this chameleon becomes a bit less slippery when you count in the fact that you have that pillar and you have that sleep, which if it once lands onto Nico, she cannot run away from it.
Alright, and we are getting back into the game, finally, at last. We are here. Samus, he is pathing towards the bot side, whereas leaving Limbo sticking around that top lane.
And big surprises there.
Yeah, our Samus is sticking around that Tribush, and I don't think it is warded by Stopwatch.
Okay, so now let's see if the Black Shield and the Spell Shield are going to be enough to stop all of that combined CC from Glorious Gaming. It's not warded yet.
Definitely is not. Bomberhunt, the Black Shield goes down, there's the pillar, good flash away, the binding still catches on though. Can it be the follow-up from Glorious Gaming? Whisper picks up the kill, and Malak Belki will be safe underneath that turret. But Glorious Gaming, they strike back, and it is now 1-1 in kills.
Mid lane, however.
Cleanse from Hank Hankerson to remove the Ignite. That was actually a good trade for the mid laner of Stopwatch, but no one ends up dying.
And no one dies in the end. The bot lane dive looked a bit cheeky there. I thought for a second that Boberhound was going to be able to get away just because he lived under the turret with 50 HP. Then Samus comes in, flashes forward, gets a nice little chomp, and then gives it over to Whisper. And so now you have 1 kill on the Xayah, and you rightfully pointed this out in the draft pick. Or sorry, in the draft phase. Why am I still calling it draft pick? But if you manage to get your Xayah snowballing, she becomes entirely different champion. Just because a behind Xayah cannot do anything, but a Xayah that is ahead, especially ahead of someone like the Sivir who spikes much later than Xayah, she becomes an absolute monster.
And so far, Whisper, he didn't recall even after that call. He will be sitting on a fair share of gold. Now Samus looking to make a gank towards the top lane, just clearing out some vision. Trying to swing that top lane matchup back, since we haven't seen Leaving Limbo make any attempts on the map just yet.
And so far, however, I really like the respect that Stopwatch are giving right now to Glorious Gaming. They know they're kind of ahead in that top lane. Burn jumps in.
And Darkblood, he's got level 6. Dominus is both. Perun, he goes too much forward. That's a flash forward. Darkblood picks up the first kill. Samus, he tries to get one back. However, Darkblood, he's now half health. He's got his fury built up, and he doesn't even care about the ganks. He just takes the kill, and he's like, I'm even going to shove this wave in. You cannot do anything to me.
Darkblood is an absolute monster on this reenactment, taking turret plates like it's nobody's business. Samus is there, trying to raise some pressure.
Darkblood gets the stun, he dashes forward with the slice and dice, picks up the killing spree, gets out alive, and now that's a 3-0 top laner.
Alright, I suppose my question marks have been just ridiculed by Darkblood in this very game in the first couple of minutes. 3-0 already on this reenactment. This guy is going to become more than a monster. He's going to become a Junji Ito horror creature, really, as bot laner is fight.
A binding connecting yet again onto Whisper. Good binding in response to the Bomberhunt. The Ignite is down. Bomberhunt picks up the first kill. It is equalized though by Rokusho, and now Malik Bell versus Rokusho. The supportal combat. Both flashes are still available. Rokusho is low on mana. He gets the binding onto the minions, and that is a 1-for-1 in bot lane.
Yeah, so nothing happens after those first couple of kills are traded. TP comes through from Whisper, however. Not going to interrupt the Morgana back, forcing her to stay, however, so looks like Glorious Gaming are going to be able to pick up at least some plates from that fight, so they still do come out on top. But it's important that we still see Stopwatch trying to fight back, trying to go for these plays, as now in the mid lane, leaving Limbo.
Hank Hankerson is going to get locked up by the Glacial Prison. He doesn't have that cleanse. There it is, the Pop Blossom. Actually does the wipe out by the Portal Jump, but it doesn't matter. Credible still going to pick up his first kill of the game and able to escape from Summers.
And my voice crack wasn't enough to save Hank Hankerson, even though he did use the Portal Jump beautifully to try and escape the Pop Blossom of Nico. Not enough to save him from the amount of damage. Whisper is getting caught out again.
Yeah, does use the Feather Storm in the bot lane. He is 1 versus 2. Malcolm dropping low, the binding goes wide. The Blade Caller makes it a 1-for-1. However, meanwhile in the river, Credible managed to pick off Samus.
This is such a sloppy game from both teams right now. They're just finding picks left and right. A really big mistake there from Malik, though, staying behind the feathers.
Rokusho is finding in the middle of it. Huge minion wave. The Boomerang Blade flash away from Rokusho, however, on the hunt. Bomberhunt goes forward. He doesn't have the heal. He doesn't have the flash. He throws out the Boomerang Blade and finds the kill.
What is this game, Kachka? What did you
SQ1 Champions League Stopwatch versus Glorious Gaming. I mean, that's a beautiful game, you have to admit.
This really is beautiful. We're seeing a lot of fights already. 11 kills coming through in 9 minutes. Is this LPL? I think it may just be because it's just as sloppy. However, all of the kills right now are sitting on Whisper, which is good if you're the side of Glorious Gaming. You're finding those leads in that bot lane, but the problem is you're being counteracted by the enemy very well as on the other side of the map. Hank Hankerson might get caught out of here again.
Malik Bell will look to throw out the binding anytime soon. However, the Tangle Barb still managed to lock down Hank Hankerson. Credible is on a killing spree. That is Stopwatch trying to get out of control.
And you may have the best Yeezys that you can afford, but Fleet Footwork is not going to be saving you if you keep all of your summoner spells before using them and trying to, you know, save yourself from the amount of crowd control that Morgana and Nico have. So one more kill goes to the mid laner. And now all of the most important carries for Stopwatch have 3 kills.
Glorious Gaming, double the control with double the vision controlling that Tribush. I feel like it's getting a bit... Yeah, exactly what I wanted to say. However, I mean, they are looking for this place. As long as they don't lose anything, I guess you cannot say anything but just, yeah, there's now leaving Limbo. He will not get slowed by that pillar thanks to the passive, but that's get found out in the jungle. And we are hitting the 10th minute mark. Stopwatch, they are 3,000 gold in the lead, and the thing about this lead is that pretty much every single lane has got some kills. As now in the ball lane, Bomberhunt, he is forced to flash away. Samus is looking for that gank. There is the final spark. The spell shield doesn't do a damn thing. That is a good stun with those soul shackles, but Bomberhunt still falls.
Now in the mid lane as well, even Limbo getting just chunked by a tiny bit by Hank Hankerson, but this is exactly what I meant when I was talking about Stopwatch not respecting the amount of vision that they need to dedicate to that bottom side river, because this is exactly what happened when they were playing against Team Twice. They gave away so many of these needless kills to the other side just because they didn't respect the fact that the enemy jungler can be on that side of the map. They overextend and they pay with their lives once again.
And we've got the 3rd kill onto Whisper Zaya, which, oh well, I will not have time to talk about it. Hank Hankerson uses both sums in the mid lane. He has got the stolen ignite, throws it down onto Credible. He's got it protocol as well, and Hankerson picks up the shutdown.
Oh, why do you have to hit skill shots when you can just press W, baby? That's the power of Zoe. Now, really well played by Hank Hankerson. Hitting pretty much everything there. He used the stolen ignite as well as the protobot that he stole of course, from Nico, and gets himself the first kill on board. He's still trying to build into that Luden's Echo first item, which means that as soon as he gets it, he's going to start being a really big menace, and the gold lead is actually shrunk right now. Top lane not really being able to accumulate that big of a deficit, quote-unquote just 20 CS when you're 3 kills behind against the Renekton is marvelous if you're Aurelion.
And Perun already's got the Ninja Tabi, so he will have more survivability. That being said though, Darkblood has got some pretty scary items, Black Cleaver and a BF Sword. The thing is, we didn't see Leave in Limbo pay any sort of attention to that top side. It could be in theory because Darkblood was pushing, but either argue that the dive potential is good enough to try and attempt it as you said it, Samus. He really loves to camp the ball lane, the Black Shield and Spell Shield both utilized. Whisper flashes forward, alright. He's hungry for those kills, but will find none.
No, even Limbo is in that bot lane himself. He does have the access to Glacial Prison. If Samus disrespects here, he can fall very quickly.
Good binding onto Samus. He has got the flash. Is it enough? He goes over the wall. The permafrost not going to be issued. Instead, Stopwatch, they are happy with just taking that Scuttle flash forward. Stun onto Rokusho with the Glacial Prison. Bowlerhound picks up the kill. Whisper comes down into the Featherstone. The heal going to be utilized, and that's a double for the AD carry of Stopwatch.
What a beautiful turn there from Stopwatch. They baited Glorious Gaming to try and follow them, try to help Samus, but in the end, you still have Leave in Limbo sitting with that Glacial Prison. He hits the crucial ultimate, and they just secure themselves 1 kill onto Whisper, also able to pop down Rift Herald in that bot lane, and it's about 30 seconds, or sorry, about 40 seconds before the turret plates disappear, and the bot lane of Stopwatch is going to be able to get everything that they could want.
Teleport as well from Whisper just to try and respawn as early as possible to prevent those plays from falling, but good focus around the bot lane now from Stopwatch. You know, we said we want to see the top lane being ahead. Stopwatch said, well, actually, Sivir being ahead is also a pretty good thing, so we'll try and do that as Samus now. He's looking for Malik Bell. That Morgana might have just stepped too far. Actually goes golden with his Stopwatch. The Ignite from Malik Bell picks up Samus. It ends up being a 1-for-1 as Rokusho getting the kill onto Malik Bell as the Sleepy Troll Bubble was flying from the north, but Hank Hankerson did miss it just by a couple of centimeters.
Yeah, Katyusha accuracy there from Hank Hankerson, unfortunately, but the amount of damage that this Sivir has is just absolutely insane. Hank Hankerson gets a good sleep job.
Yeah, he gets the sleep onto Credible, the Protocol nearly finishing off, but with one last auto attack, Hank Hankerson gets yet another solo kill onto Credible.
And this is, however, looking very reminiscent of the game against Team Twice, once again, that Stopwatch played, and that's because they were just getting caught out left and right. All of the laners were just making simple mistakes, just overextending, not respecting the enemy team enough, and that's exactly why Credible now has those 2 deaths on board. The only person that hasn't really managed to fall behind too much is Darkblood, but the problem is he's been playing a bit too safe for my liking. He has those 3 kills, but the CS lead is diminishing with every single second, as he does have the Black Cleaver, but he hasn't really been able to get much, at least from it, in terms of putting his laner behind, and rather just getting himself ahead.
Now we see the Australian lanes coming through. Bot lanes being sent up to top side. Next Dragon being the Cloud, so you probably don't want to pay that much attention. And it all becomes about just taking the towers. Only one has fallen, the bot lane for Glorious Game being taken by Stopwatch, and any additional turrets you can take are going to help you control the map in this mid game.
And if we look at the amount of vision that Stopwatch have already put forward, especially around that bot side of the map, it's already an improvement from their last performance, because you now have so many control wards littered around the enemy jungle, allowing you to move much further in. Limbo doesn't move into mid lane, but luckily for Hank Hankerson, he does have cleanse and actually uses it this time around.
Yeah, he gets out of the Glacial Prison and will be now without the Summoner, so in a bit more danger than he normally would be, but he lands another Sleepy Trial Bubble onto Credible. Here comes the Paddle Star, and you have to start watching the damage. That is now a Sorg, Boots, and Luden's Echo Zoe.
And I have been so impressed with Hank Hankerson so far. He's been finding so many of these bubbles. He has a 40 CS lead over Credible, just because he's been able to push him out of lane every single time that he even tries to approach the wave. And it is largely also why Glorious Gaming aren't out of the running for this game just yet. I was going to be saying that Hank Hankerson can find something with that trouble bubble there, but I kind of forgot that he's trying to kill a Renekton, which, by the way, you really cannot do if you're Zoe at all, until you finish Void Staff, essentially.
Alright, well then, this is a bit of a problem as, talking about problems, for Glorious Gaming, Rokosho will be cut out in the top lane bomber hunt on a killing spree. Now Whisper looking to get a kill back, he's throwing out those feathers, goes into the Featherstorm, the ignite, will take him down, Malik Bell getting the last tick to getting the kill. Now Samus, he has bitten off more than he can chew, that's an entire 5-man squad from Stopwatch collapsing, with Credible being now 4-2-0, and 3 kills being found by Stopwatch.
If there are any psychology majors out there in the audience, you can use that very clip to see how their players were thinking. Samus first came there, thought that he was going to be able to get something, but in the end is forced to run away forced to run away and die very, very early on. 0-4, not really having the strongest of showings, and Stopwatch, they've been playing pretty well. Of course, there have been still some mistakes, but so far they're getting the pressure in mid lane.
Credible will not get the Pop Blossom, but the Glacial Prison hits right on the mark, and Live in Limbo finally gets his first kill of the game on SQ1. And Stopwatch, this game, it isn't super clean, but they are snowballing their advantages fairly well.
And well, if you look at the entirety of Stopwatch, right? I mean, a lot of these kills are found just because of picks, and it's kind of making me a bit sad for Stopwatch because we aren't really seeing, you know, big macro plays and stuff like that, but we're seeing pretty big strides in the right direction. Now, what I'm also going to be looking at is going to be this Baron buff that is going to be spawning in a minute and a half, and if they can actually set it up properly, because that was also a big problem that they had in the last showing they had on stream. They weren't really able to secure it properly. They didn't really know how to juggle the aggro, and when it came to turning from the Baron buff, well, it really worked against them. Twice, I believe it was, that they gave it almost away, but then they managed to secure the game. So let's see if they're going to be able to improve on top of that.
Perun 1 versus 2 in the bowling. Throws down the Vanguard, just flashes away Darkblood, looking to go forward, and the amount of stance is just too much. Darkblood's on the rampages in the mid lane. Samus, he's cut out of position, and Credible gets another kill. The final part coming through, but not really doing a whole lot, as Glorious Gaming, they lose 2 members for what seems like, yeah, a lot of times.
I mean, okay, Hank Hankerson, alright, he's not gonna die. Like, every single time that you see a crowd control being hit, you have to wonder, is that actually going to kill someone? Just because both teams have so much burst damage. I held my breath when leaving Limbo just chased forward like that.
How about holding your breath now? Yeah, it was close, but as the 106 Sejuani with the Cinder Hole completed, and level 12, so you have quite a bit of resistances to get through. Stopwatch though, 5 turrets now being picked up. They break the tier 1 in the middle lane, they get tier 2s in both of the side lanes, and all they need to do now, walk into the jungle, place vision, and play around the Baron properly.
Exactly, and they do not have teleport, at least available right now, and Glorious Gaming do have an advantage, at least in the terms of teleports, just because they do have it sitting on Whisper, so can be something that is going to be troubling Stopwatch at least a tiny bit, as the Baron dance will eventually ensue, hopefully. Now, where are the teams going to focus? Because you do not have a Drake up right now. The next one is going to be Ocean one, so not high on priority there. Both teams right now should be just roaming around the top side of the map, trying to put the vision, as you said, and well, it's going to be a little bit of a boring time, unless we find a pick, once again.
Yeah, I'm also looking at the side lane matchup that probably will happen. I mean, I would assume that Darklight will be sent down to bot lane as soon as his teleport is up, and same for Perun. And that Renekton, so far, he should still have the 1v1, but as soon as Perun hits his second item, that is where things start to turn around, maybe in favor of Glorious Gaming when it comes to splitting the map up.
And the thing is, right now, Renekton is at essentially his strongest point that he is going to be, because right now, this is essentially the last item that he can build offensively before he is forced into a stun bot duty and just forced to build something like a Spirit Visage. He has the Black Cleaver and a Spear of Shojin, and he's incredibly powerful. He's going to be able to push out anyone from the side lane, and I want to see Stopwatch try and utilize it right now. He is sitting just around with his team in that mid lane, not something that you generally see Renekton do. And I'm expecting him to just go into that top lane because, of course, he doesn't have TP and he has to be close to the objective that Stopwatch wants to pick up.
Stopwatch turning towards that Ocean Drake, picking up the free objective for themselves, no cost at all with this one. 22 minutes in, the Baron still not touched. There are quite a couple of wards for both teams. As now Credible, he could be slightly too far as now Glacial Prison connecting onto Rokusho. Immediate flash away. Samus, he doesn't make it over the wall, and now he could be locked down. The Pop Blossom comes through. Rokusho ignited down, leaving Limbo pick up the first kill of the fight. Whisper, he's got the feathers, he pulls them back in. That is a shutdown picked up by Hank Hankers on the Featherstorm as well, but Darkblood, he's just unstoppable in the back line. That's a shutdown, and Glorious Gaming, they're actually looking to strike back. They have got this fight so far 3-4-2. Hank Hankerson going forward with the flash. He finds the sleep. He will put sleep in limbo to a death. That's a shutdown in a 4-4-2 fight in favor of Glorious Gaming.
How were Glorious Gaming able to turn that fight around? My head cannot wrap around that turnaround. I mean, Stopwatch essentially just pushed way too far forward. The problem was, Whisper wasn't there at the beginning of it.
Oh, Glorious Gaming, they find the delayed ace. Another shutdown going over to Perunen. That is just so much gold now.
Well, yeah, that is the power of the pick composition. I was going to say that Whisper nor Hank were actually in that fight when it ensued, yet the three members that were there were able to completely pop the health bars of Stopwatch.
Oh.
Okay, goodbye, Nico. Or not.
Well, there was the Guardian.
Yeah.
So it would have killed Credible, which is it's not an OP rune. That's just a Zoe that's ahead.
No, it's no. I mean the Guardian. It stopped Zoe from one-shotting someone. Okay, it's borderline broken, right? It's borderline broken.
But it's needed in the game.
No.
Yes.
Hey,
what would you play on Prom if not Guardian?
Aftershock.
No. Why?
Because after level 6, you can knock people up and run at them with the Aftershock, like the Chad that you are. But returning back to the game, we don't really have Chad supports here. Instead, we have Chad top laners. And I said that this was going to be the last time that Darko was going to be able to itemize offensively, because now he's going to be facing Perun, who is incredibly strong, and another person that is very strong right now on the side of Glorious Gaming is that Xayah. Whisper has been piloting that champion so effectively in every single team fight thus far, just an incredible amount of damage that he's able to have as his damage output.
Glorious Gaming looking to come forward, clear out this vision. Perun is actually with his team, so Darkblood will have some time on a side lane, and Glorious Gaming, they don't push forward, they just clear a couple of wards. And you mentioned the itemization. I think Darkblood will be now going for the Stax Gauge, will be my prediction. So once he gets that, he will be also pretty tanky in those team fights.
Likely will be that next itemization, of course. Renekton is once again forced to build defensively just because he needs to be able to get at least on the carries to try and stun them down, because that's his job in any single team fight. So a bit of an unfortunate tale for the mighty alligator. However, we're 25 minutes in, and the big problem that Stopwatch are going to be fighting is not only that they aren't really able to out-team fight the side of Glorious Gaming, but that they are also just out-visioned, because if you look at the control that they have in the jungle quadrants, there is almost nothing. Okay, Samus.
Well, Samus, he is just rooted for ages, and Darkblood picking up that kill. That's the jungler down for 35 seconds, and Stopwatch, this could be the pick they were looking for.
Could very well be. Perun is in the mid lane. He is ready to be going there. Just half HP on Darkblood. There is a lot of damage.
Yeah, Rookie's already burning the final spark. They're not interested in stealing the Baron. They want to interrupt the Perun is in the backside. He misses. The flawless duet and Pop Blossom will secure the stun. Perun has to flash away from the Glacial Prison. Now he's getting chased down. Darkblood finds the shot down. The binding only connects onto Malik Bell. Credible running low on his health, however. Stopwatch are able to get some kills and disengage.
And in the end, a good turnaround of Stopwatch onto Glorious Gaming. They repelled their attempt of trying to dissuade them, or at least slaughter them in that Baron pit. So, however, this is the thing that I have also seen in their last game. Okay, the fact that Bomberhorn is just backing next to that one Raptor is actually tilting me. but regardless,
Okay.
they start the Baron, but they then have to turn away from it because they aren't powerful enough to actually finish it because Hank Hankerson can just stay behind that wall, and there is nothing that the opposing team can do to try and get on top of him. So if every single Baron scenario goes that way, well, it looks like we're gonna be having a really long game ahead of us because neither of the teams is really going to be able to do too much in these fights.
However, Infernal Dragon is on the map, and Dragon is an easy objective to commit to.
Oh, yeah.
Infernal gives you also a lot of stats that you might want to get as Rikusho. He is definitely out of position. He's got the flash on the hill, but will he decide to use them instead? He accepts his fate, and I mean, that's just what happens when you're out of position as Lux.
Oh yeah, and right now, Hank Hankerson, he's just dealing with damage.
Flash Binding connects in onto Peru. That is a good flawless duet, and Darkblack is able to leaving the ball already in the first kill of the fight. Credible throws out the pop blossom. That is a double kill for the Sejuani. Whispers already down. Hank Hankerson flashing away, and he will be able to make it to safety, but Stopwatch finds 4 kills.
A wonderful team fight there from Stopwatch. They utilize the fact that Glorious Gaming were out of position for 1 second, and then Malakbel flashes forward, gets the binding, gets the follow-up stun, and it's just a slaughterfest from that point on. Now Stopwatch, they turn to that Baron buff. There is no vision from the side of Glorious Gaming, and well, what can GG really do here? Well, they can at least try to do that Infernal Drake, I suppose. Yeah, that's the best call.
Yeah, Rikusho will be walking towards the top side, however, Malakbel is already anticipating him in the jungle, so no chance of a final spark Baron steal. Instead, it is firmly secured by the side of Stopwatch. Infernal Dragon, the Constellation prize. However, let's take a look at the items because they're always fun to remind ourselves of. And actually looking at the items for the carries, and mostly I'm talking about the melee and the AD carry, Glorious Gaming are pretty even, if not slightly ahead.
Yeah, and I'm very, once again, impressed by Hank Hankerson's performance on that Zoe, just because he is absolutely out-farming Credible right now. He has, okay, don't do math on stream, but 70 CS ahead right now, so he is sitting on 3 items, and Nico hasn't even been able to finish that. And problem is, Hextech Protobelt and Hourglass are very cheap items in comparison to something like Luden's Echo and Immortal Nomicon, so Zoe is going to be having much more of a damage output than this Nico in these fights, but here it comes to the difficulty of execution, essentially, because this Zoe cannot get anywhere near the enemy team, and there is just so many ways that Stopwatch can jump on top of you. You have the Morgana, you have the Nico, you have the Sejuani and Renekton. It's just so difficult for Glorious Gaming to find good team fights because they need to keep their carries away, but there is just so many ways that Stopwatch can use to get on top of them.
At least you've got Hank Hankerson chunking half of health of anyone that isn't Sejuani and Renekton on hit with just the Q without the sleep, so you can look for those if you are Glorious Gaming.
Yeah,
however,
yes.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, continue.
No, please.
Okay, well, the bot lane, Darkblack, he's got the Baron buff, and Perun is struggling to clear all those minions, so that part is essentially doomed to fall.
Yeah, it's right now going to fall in just a few seconds, as now the forces of Glorious Gaming are spread very, very thin. 4 members in that mid lane trying to at least do some amount of damage, defense against Stopwatch. They give away that mid lane turret, and now it's looking like it's going to be a very similar situation, just with the inhibitor turret. So
Glacial Prison connecting onto Hank Hankerson. He is still out alive, chunked down to half health. The base still stands for Glorious Gaming. Stopwatch, they are looking to break their way in, but not quite able to do so.
Right now, the Baron buff is going to be expiring relatively soon, so I'm going to kind of tie into the point that I wanted to make before we started talking about the bot lane situation, and okay, it's a lot of damage. I'm not going to make my point.
Oh my goodness, Credible. You have to watch yourself and your positioning. He's forced to burn the zone, yes. He's probably forced to leave the fight, and that's just Glorious Gaming, buying yourself some time. And let's talk about the late game. You said that Stopwatch have got the superior team fights. However, how does it really look like when it comes to the compositions holistically?
So, yes, this is actually what I was going to talk about. Yeah, so right now, Glorious Gaming, they have to just find poke. They have to utilize the Zoe to her full effectiveness, because if they don't, it's just a lost team fight every single time. Because if Stopwatch jump on top of you, you're dead. There is nothing that you can do. Leave in Limbo now goes in. It's chunked for a tiny bit. So as long as you use Hank Hankerson to just chunk the enemies down, as long as you use Rokusho to follow up with that damage, you can still chunk them, and after that, you can use Perun to jump on top of the backline. And if you have Whisper untouched, essentially, because you're going to be having the enemy team worry about this Aurelia on your backline, you can find those team fights. But on the other side, Stopwatch, they have it much easier, because what they need to do is... Okay, so... imagine that you have a mouse in your hand, which you like to do. So you click on the enemy nexus, right? And that's it. And then you encounter Glorious Gaming, and you mash all of your buttons that you have, and they die. That is essentially the comp that Stopwatch have right now. It's just much easier for them, because they get on top of anyone, and they can blow them up, because there is no legitimate tank on Glorious Gaming side.
Yeah, the closest you have is Samus, who is not having the best of times, only the Cinderhawk and the Knight's Vow. So yeah, there is no one that can tank the damage. That's also a 4-item saver. I wanna just drive that point home really hard. Bomberhunt is going to hit like a truck.
And she's gonna be finishing that Guardian Angel as well, so if any of the assassination attempts essentially happen from Glorious Gaming and they do manage to hit that key target of Sivir and manage to burst her down, well, she's going to be having a couple of seconds to let her team run up to her and form that front line with that SQ1, with that Renekton, so the odds of Glorious Gaming actually finding a good team fight are just diminishing even more after that item completion.
Yeah, Rokusho is just looking for the flanks, throw out some bindings. Hopefully one of them will hit the sleep now on to leave in limbo. He didn't go for the Warbox, which means that he is susceptible to poke. Oh, yeah. You aren't going to be regening that health as quickly as you'd like.
Yeah, and as you said, he does have kind of just Spirit Visage and the Cinderhawk to try and, well, match the damage that you're going to be dealt in that poke. So you can still poke the Sejuani down now. Glorious Gaming, they're going to clear this mid lane, and they're going to try and set up some vision around the Baron buff, but that is a questionable choice, as now they're going to be forced to return to defend their base, because Stopwatch can just run at them and force them, so a bit of a questionable decision there.
And Stopwatch have got the position onto that turret. That's a good Glacial Prison. Hankerson forced to burn the cleanse already, and the turret finally falls. The first goal of the fight does go over to leave a level. The Pop Blossom doesn't find anyone. In the backline is sitting Perun trying to find the kills. Bomberhunt will be able to knock him down. Whisper in the front line. He has to burn the Feather Zone Flash away from Bomberhunt to stay him to keep himself alive. Hankerson is on a rampage. That is a 2-for-2 for now. However, 2-for-1. Glorious Gaming, they are hungry. Hankerson flashing forward. He does miss the sleep, however, low health bars on everyone. And this could be the Baron for Glorious Gaming if they find any more kills, or even without them. As now Darkblood looking to recall, Whisper will spot him out, and that was a beautiful fight for Glorious Gaming.
Glorious Gaming once again managed to keep themselves alive in this game. They're just hanging by the strand of a hair and trying to keep themselves up and alive in this game. The Baron buff, however, isn't falling too quickly, and now you have 3 members of Stopwatch barreling down that inhibitor turret. If this goes any slower, they might even try to damage some Nexus turrets, but instead, looks like they are going to back off, so Glorious Gaming, they still come out on top on that one overextension of Stopwatch.
Our Stopwatch get the best out of the worst situation, getting that mid lane inhibitor in their favor, properly breaking the base open, and they will have pressure due to those super minions coming through for the next 5 minutes, which is acceptable if you are Stopwatch.
But the crucial thing is that Glorious Gaming were able to find that Baron buff, especially because, as you said, now Stopwatch are going to be having those super minions on their side, but if you actually combine that with a Baron buff, it's impossible for this Zoe to do anything to try and clear those minions, and Zoe is the longest range that you have when it comes to clearing minions, and if you have only Xayah able to clear those, well, it becomes a lot more difficult for you to try and actually defend your objectives. So it's crucial that GG were able to pick this buff up and just try and sustain themselves for a bit longer, trying to reach that item disparity to be no more.
Alright, talking about the items, 5 on Bomberhunt, he's got the Guardian Angel. Whisper also working towards his 5th item, which could as well be that GA. Hankerson making his way for that Death Cap, which when he hits, he's going to be one-shotting people for real. And Credible, he's making his way towards some serious items as well. So those Pop Blossoms become much more crucial with each passing team fight.
Oh, I really like what Stopwatch are doing. They're pulling the death brushes. And Samus, he's so careful trying to go into this jungle. Now he isn't going to be spotted just yet, and so Stopwatch abandoned the idea. But right now, we're seeing Glorious Gaming just be very careful, and that's exactly what they need to be right now. They have to play the poke game, and if they run into the entirety of Stopwatch, they're just dead immediately. So right now, it's do or die situation, and it is a horror movie for them.
Siege coming through in the top lane, Stopwatch looking for that inhibitor tower, and you know, let's just remind ourselves of how this game went. It was Stopwatch with a lead. Glorious Gaming, they found a few picks, but ultimately Stopwatch were able to hold on to a lead this entire game. And if they can close it out, that will be a very convincing win for them. Or not convincing, I meant morale boosting. Morale boosting.
A good win. Now, looks like there are attempts of Glorious Gaming to try and push the enemies out of their jungle. Relatively successful. Trying to just secure at least that fog of war to return to a status quo, so that neither of the teams has an advantage. As Stopwatch, they do fall away, at least for now. They're going to be backing. They have some gold to spend, even though I'm a bit unsure of what Bomberhunt is going to be picking up with this pack. However, the next Drake, the Elder Drake, is going to be spawning in just a couple of seconds. So right now, crucial that Glorious Gaming find at least some of the vision control over it. Because, well, if they lose this objective, it's going to become a bit more difficult for them, even more so than it already is.
I think both of those teams are definitely looking at it. The Dragons are fairly close, 3-2, but both of the team comps are centered around finding fights in one way or another. That extra burn is going to be paramount, and if this game goes long enough for a second Elder, which it is likely to, then the team that picks it up will have that advantage.
And the thing that I kind of want to point out to the viewers as well is that the side of Stopwatch are very reliant on their ultimates. So
Rokusho is caught out by the Tangle Barbs. There it is, the Dark Binding. That is a lot of heal. The redemption doesn't come in time. Leaving Limbo pick up the first kill of the fight. There it is, the Pop Blossom onto Samus. They just cut him down. That's a double for Leaving Limbo, and Stopwatch are winning this fight. That is a good Blade Caller. Dark Blood low on health. The heal will be committed. Stopwatch, they find two, but are really unable to push through more.
Yeah, however, Glorious Gaming, they're playing this well. They chunk the remaining members of Stopwatch so that they cannot push through that mid lane. However, that isn't going to be enough to try and repel them away from this Elder Dragon, as it is just going down so quickly. Luckily for Glorious Gaming, however, Stopwatch haven't picked up anything like a Manta Drake or an Infernal one, so they're still going to be pretty happy Cowboys to be picking that Elder Drake up, but it could be much worse.
It definitely could be. Just give some more movement speed and sustain. Of course, the burn being the most important for both of those teams when it comes to their game plans, and the inhibitor has come back up. We are actually 40 minutes in. I am curious if anyone is running the Gathering Storm Rune. I'm just gonna... You can talk whilst I'm checking this out.
Feel free to check that out. And right now, the inhibitor has respawned, as you pointed out, which means that now Glorious Gaming are going to be able to reclaim some of that lost vision that they had given. Okay, that's...
How did he even...
Okay, alright. I actually didn't see that, so feel free to talk and I'm gonna check back on that.
Well, all we know is Rokusho was burned out very quickly right now. A bigger fight could be erupting Kenkanger, so he is cut out of position. The Pop Blossom shuts him down. Credible, picking the crucial kill for Stopwatch at home. He's trying to jump into the backline with the Vanguard Jet. He's got the GA pop down, but it might not be enough. Stopwatch in their full might are looking to collapse in onto him. That's a good flawless duel, but Bomberhorn, he picks up the kill onto Perun. Only Whisper and Samus remain as Stopwatch, they could even be looking to end the game.
Right now, Glorious Gaming, they're just buying some time with the lack of a minion wave. However, that doesn't stop Stopwatch at all from taking this inhibitor at least. And right now, Whisper, he has to pull some miracle play. He has to get a really good Blade Caller. They have to buy around 30 seconds for Hank Hankerson to spawn.
It just seems so unlikely. Stopwatch, they got ahead early. It looked a bit sloppy at times. There's a flash forward. They burn the GA of Whisper. The redemption will be coming out, but it's not enough to redeem Glorious Gaming. As Stopwatch, they are coming through. They pick up the shutdown onto Whisper. And GameStop actually, he will be respawning. So Malbell does drop. Savage is getting cut down. That is a double, and it is over, as you have said it, Ace. And at 41 minutes into the game, Stopwatch are taking the win over Glorious Gaming.
And it's a difficult game to analyze because this game should have ended about 20 minutes ago when we count in what the composition was able to do. However, there was a lot of overextensions from the side of Stopwatch, and we have seen that a lot of times when they ran forward with a Sejuani, they overextended, they thought that Dark Blau was able to deal more damage than he was actually capable of, and then it just kind of crumbled. However, in the end, they were just way too far ahead. They had way too much damage and way too easy of a composition to just, lose. I mean, they were essentially playing rock, paper, scissors, and they had to get a couple of conditions, which is that they don't fall behind. And well, they did that, and they were the rock, and unfortunately for Glorious Gaming, GG were the scissors. So,
the paper.
No, Glorious Gaming were scissors, and Stopwatch were the rock.
Okay, well,
you never played rock, paper,
no, I
scissors
thought no. I thought you said that Glorious Gaming were the rock.
No.
Okay.
Why would they be the rock?
I mean, why not?
I mean, Glorious Gaming couldn't smell what the Stopwatch was cooking because Jesus Christ, this was a slaughter. So, regardless, we have. That was a terrible fun, Jesus Christ.
We have a break coming up, everyone. After that, we will actually follow Stopwatch today as they will face off against Bittersweet Gaming. So, catch us then. We will be right back.
Yeah.